All hail, you Savage Space Cadets! Tonight we've got a very special episode of the SavageCast with Scott Hollywood Woodard of Flash Gordon fame and other fame. So welcome to the show, Scott.
It's great to be here, guys.
And we got an irreplaceable, inevitable Savage Mommy.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. So since Scott does the news, we're not going to keep him off screen for the beginning part. Before we get to the meat and potatoes of the episode. So we will give you really quickly the Savage news you can use. Savage Mommy, kick us off on what has gone on in the Savage sphere these last 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, there was some news about Tales from Savage Eberron. So cool. Just to kind of prove that Savage Worlds can do most anything, you can go out. It's a fan project. So you can go out to their site on the Media Network and grab Tales from Savage Eberron. And I know...
And that's like Christian Serrano did the conversion, right? And then they're doing like a blog.
Right.
Like a multi-part blog.
And I know you can get... I'm not sure where you can get the rules, but I know they're out there.
Christian Serrano knows.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Christian, yes.
And another kind of exciting product is from Carl Kiesler. And the guys at Doghouse Rules put out 6 more pre-gens for Westerns. These are perfect for Deadlands.
Yeah, and they're like not charging much at all for them. I think they're like 99 cents.
Yeah, 99 cents or $1.99. I've gotten all the other ones, because you can, if you're going to run Deadlands, you can never have enough pre-gens. And it just makes it so much quicker. And sometimes I think maybe it's too many choices, but at least you have a lot of choice, and it makes things quicker to get games up and running. So, and anything Doghouse Rules and Carl does is it's going to be quality.
The next we got Deadwood. Guys, we're going to Deadwood. We're going to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Deadlands, play some fun Savage Worlds games, and get out and about in the town. So that's this August 19th to 22nd. The last 2 weeks of news, we kind of covered some of the fun stuff in town you can catch. Either with your badge or for free. So there's like a lot of there's a whole acting troupe that runs around town all day, like 6 days a week, every day but Sunday, doing shootouts and reenactments. And they do a trial of Jack McCall, and they do the actual shooting of Wild Bill. And then they do some other kind of famous shootouts that have happened in Deadwood. And so you guys can check out that article. And then the other thing is like the museums and monuments you guys can check out that are in town to learn more about the history of Deadwood. So those are 2 articles you guys can check out as well.
Yeah, and tons of ETT stuff, again, the past 2 weeks. So, Deadlands for Roll20 and Foundry, the map packs are up there now. Roll20 has the entire, everything for Deadlands up there now. That was the big announcement that I saw this week.
Yeah, so Scott has fun writing these, I'm sure, because trying to make every new. The VTT team is awesome, right? They put out material. It's like every other week now, big releases. Not making a schedule, no promises. But Scott's got to spice up the news, and your well is pretty deep, sir. I'm amazed at how interesting you make what is essentially routine content come alive. So what is the secret? What is the secret to making the vibe of Pinnacle, the news persona?
A lot of it goes back to my working as a writer-producer for television and radio. So I've had to sell stuff in tiny little chunks, whether it would be like a 5-second ID up to like a 30-second spot on the radio or TV. So I kind of use the same way of thinking when I'm writing, stuff for Pinnacle. I like to actually perceive in my head that a Pinnacle article is copy that could be read on TV or radio. So that's why a lot of times you'll see little asides and you'll see, fun little plays on word, play on words. Yeah. So that, it doesn't necessarily read. It'll read fun, but if you read it aloud, it actually comes alive. And so that's how I have always written that stuff. And just knowing the property and being such a fan of Savage Worlds, it's easy to write that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that really helps when you're a fan, and it just kind of probably just flows and not a big problem writing it.
Not at all.
So I know in the news too, big Flash Gordon news. So the Legends of Mongo booster box is on Game On Tabletop right now. And they're also doing, kind of in conjunction with that, they are actually doing a PDF sale. So if you're interested in, and you didn't get the physical copies and you're interested in just PDFs, you should go out and look at that PDF sale.
Yeah, so the idea there is that if you're just going for digital for all this, instead of having to throw all of the digital from the previous Flash Gordon releases, and Flash Gordon's a really well-supported line. There've been big box sets, then add-ons, and then this kind of crowdfunder really kind of completes that with one of the newer items that we've added recently at Pinnacle, which is the pawns, the figure flats. And so the figure flats, like over 140 figure flats in the Legends of Mongo box set that they work not just for the Legends of Mongo, the Moons of Mongo adventures that come with the new box set, but they're actually figure flats that for like the whole Flash line, or really for any of your space romance, adventures in space, kind of melodrama, pulpy space pulp kind of stuff. Any of those, right?
Oh, yeah.
You could use these.
Works for all of them.
So if you're just doing digital though, all of the bundled PDFs for the previous releases are all on sale on the Peg Inc. website, and then you can just back the current pledge manager, crowdfunder, which is Game On Tabletop, just for the digital level, and then you'll get everything. So you'll have like all of the Flash in PDF between those two. So that's the theory behind that one. So Scott, since it is your baby, give us the pitch for Flash Gordon. I mean, we're gonna spend most of the episode talking about Flash Gordon, but what is the 30-second spot, because you paid $1 million for the Super Bowl Flash Gordon on the spot? Why do people want to get into Flash Gordon?
Well, Flash, I mean, first of all, I like to think that Flash is a perfect match with Savage Worlds. So if you go back to the roots of Savage Worlds, it's always been about pulp. It's always been fast, furious, and fun. And I think one of the things we tried to do with Flash Gordon was not just focus on old comic strips or old movies or whatever. It's embracing the idea of high adventure, pulpy, four-color science fiction, but yet science fiction, I guess science fantasy is closer in line with that, because you don't really have to worry about things like physics necessarily. So my feeling is that it's bright, bold, fun adventure, over the top, very campy, and allows players to just sort of let loose and have a great time, and often not even worry about dying, because we've sort of put that on the back burner. So it's not necessarily a lethal type of game. It's really meant to just be fun and exciting and high adventure.
And we will get to that, because there is some fun ways that this Flash Gordon setting does with the not worrying about dying and kind of bringing in the pulp stuff. But are there any? Oh, the other last bit of news. It's really cool. We got two more things. 3 more things. Well, there's more news. Like, we'll get to it fast. Like,
there's always news.
I know. Oh God. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, like, Scott is an angel. So Pinnacle has their big Monday meeting, right? Like, Monday meetings are like where everybody on face camera decides stuff for the week, decides stuff for 3 weeks from now, all that kind of stuff. And then Tuesday is the good day to email people. So because Scott's a busy man and actually works regularly in Hollywood, that's why he's Scott Hollywood Woodard. That's my brilliant nom de plume, portmanteau, whatever it calls. Anyways, we've got a couple hours in the morning on Tuesday to get Scott's attention to write the Savage News. And it was great when we weren't having 4 crowdfunders all the same time in VTT releases and Ace stuff and Lights again. When it's like 2 or 3 articles, great. Now we're getting into you have to fight for space to get into the articles, and we keep Scott for like all morning. So he is a saint writing these articles all morning. He's like, oh, there's another one? I'm like, yeah, we've got 2 different VTT releases. We had to bump one from last week, and this one's going live. Please write another article, please. So it
can be crazy. It can absolutely be crazy. And I mean, honestly, it's been fascinating watching that evolution. So like I say, I've been doing this for Pinnacle now, maybe 2.5, 3 years, I think. It's been a while. I've been writing this stuff. And to go from those earlier days, we would write, maybe 4 or 5 articles a week. And sometimes we'll still come in that wheelhouse. But for instance, today, we did the nice big chunky Flash article and a nice big chunky VTT article for Deadlands. So we're getting bigger and bolder and more exciting, and it's just there's always great stuff going on, and not enough space.
It used to be like one hyperlink, and now there's like 12. It's like this week, Scott was on, Design Corner with Donald Shepis yesterday. We're doing SavageCast tonight. Tomorrow, you'll be on the beginning of our actual play that Cheyenne Wright's going to run. You'll be there to introduce it and get that rolling. And then let's see. Then there's a Reddit AMA, right? So like we've booked you out this week. This is the Scott doesn't get normal work done this week, even though he's trying to like save up money to move because housing prices are crazy. So yeah, we've got Scott on hook to get to push the Flash Gordon.
I'm loving it.
Crowdfunder.
Bring it on, man.
Right. But we'd be remiss. There's two different releases from the wonderful folks over at Sound Booth Theater. The one that just came out is On the Flip Side, and that's the one that we interviewed. If you go to the Peg Inc. YouTube, which is like youtube.com/C4channel/Peg Inc., we did an interview with the folks over at Sound Booth Theater and Aaron Rosenberg talking about his writing process. And On the Flip Side, there's a free preview in that the video, but for only $2 you can get On the Flip Side from Aaron Rosenberg. That one's been released. And then the last one they did was, I think, Thicker Than Water by Clint Black. So those are both hot and fresh $2 releases from Sound Booth Theater. And then
they're just putting out a ton of stuff, right?
And like really good quality, and it's $2. Like seriously,
yeah.
Like they're really, especially for voice acting.
If you can, I think they're great because they're you get to listen to a couple of them while you work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to have something to listen to, and and for $2 you can't beat it.
Fox sprinkles those in.
And for me, who just realized today that I managed to lose my Audible account.
Wait, did you live off of that for all of your true crime?
I'm gonna need more of these to supplement while I try to contact Audible and say, is there any way you can get my account back?
How did you?
Oh, I had two Amazon accounts, and I was getting confused on where I was ordering stuff from for which account. So I closed one of them, not realizing it was the one that Audible was tied to.
Oh.
So
yeah.
I think it's probably gone. I had 6 credits waiting for me. I was thinking, but hey, I have some Sound Booth Theater that I can look at now. And I know you were about to mention this, Chris, but Atomic Ninja Studios.
Yeah, so they've been around for 2 whole years now. They've been doing a ton of releases. So they're celebrating their second anniversary with some really awesome products. So check out the Atomic Ninja stuff. Those guys are cool. We met them at Gen Con. You met them before. I met the guys at Gen Con. God, is it 2 years ago now? Because COVID happened and the whole year disappeared. But yeah, check it out.
2020.
Right.
You gotta say it in quotes.
That's right.
It's like Voldemort, the year that shall not be named. And I think, let's see, they really put out a bunch of really cool one shots. And I think the one for this one is a sequel to the Fillion Manor fantasy one shot. And
they've been putting them out about once a month.
Which is pretty awesome. It is hard to keep up that kind of level of production because it's so easy to have stuff the art didn't come in on time. I'll just worry about it later. Or play testing this didn't work out so great. I'll just worry about it later. And so
we can just skip a month. Yeah, no.
No.
And then let's see any other good news. Last but not also there's a cool new Deadlands stream by the guys of Fresh Out the Box. And so if you want more Deadlands streaming, check them out. They are on Twitch, and the link
Wednesday
for that.
Nights, I think
Wednesday nights. I think is it. Let's see what their Twitch. Let me go look at it. Actually, read the news, and theirs is twitch.tv/JAHANANON.
Yes, every Wednesday night, 8 to 11 Central Time.
So it's Jahan Navisi and Gary Avenger and friends put on a Deadlands actual play, which is great. Because like, I mean, obviously we're on Twitch now, and everybody's going on to Twitch, and it's a great platform to be able to see what's going on in the tabletop world when you can't get in with your friends. You can watch other people play. So it's good stuff. So with all of that, I'm going to run our lovely introduction because we had Derek do an amazing introduction for us, and we will get into the meat and potatoes of the episode with Scott Woodard and the amazing stuff with Flash Gordon. So enjoy our intro, folks.
Coming to you from the foot of the majestic Rocky Mountains, Denver, Colorado, it's the SavageCast, a Savage Worlds podcast brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Savages. Here are your hosts, Chris Savage Mummy Fox and Christopher Savage Bull Landauer.
Awesome sauce. So
back to talk all things Flash.
Right, we already have questions.
I know. I was looking at that. I'm like, questions already.
Right, and we were joking around the pre-show that the sadly we could not secure a licensing deal, even though Scott is famous and all over Hollywood. the people of Queen, being in England, just don't have the same connections over here stateside. So we could not secure the Flash Gordon audio for this podcast. Sad to say. Also, our budget is like negative $100. So.
I was about to say, yeah. If they would pay us to play it, then maybe we could do that. But
right. Dear Brian May, you guys really need some exposure. Can you give us your music? Because our amazing niche role-playing game, niche podcast that was totally off the air for a year has an amazing following.
We never know.
We hear you have a pretty neat band.
Honestly, I did reach out. I did email whatever, I can't remember the label he's on right now, but I did reach out when we were doing Flash with the hope, beyond hope, I guess, of them actually, or of Brian anyway, providing us with some kind of music access for the Kickstarter, the original Kickstarter. But alas, who are we?
That's right. Yes. So this first I'm a Skylion. His first comment there, I was really surprised. He says I was at the Gen Con where they announced they had Flash Gordon in 2004. It was 2004. Was that the right date?
No,
maybe 2014.
I think it was 14.
Okay, I was like, holy crap, that can't be that long ago.
Yeah, 2004. I was still working for Warner Brothers. I don't think that was
okay. Must
was even in mind.
Must be 2014. I mean, yeah. I was there too, but I don't remember
Wasn't that an epic announcement? I mean, a lot of people missed out being there, but we literally dropped the lights and we brought up an awesome video with the we did use the music. Shush. And then when the lights came up, we all had Flash Gordon t-shirts on. It was pretty epic.
Okay. He's saying that's when they first announced it, but they ended up not getting it, and they did Slipstream instead.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, so this was we got it, and then
well, God, that would be right after Savage Worlds was a thing, right? It was like wasn't 2003?
Yeah.
So It's been on Shane's mind. Apparently, Shane had this in mind from the very, very beginning.
Well, as you can kind of tell, because I mean, at one point they did Space 1889.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Slipstream, right? And those kind of
and Slipstream, yeah. Slipstream is closer to Flash. Certainly.
Right. I was going to say they're Flash adjacent.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Shane's here.
Hey, he's here.
Oh no, the boss showed up. This is not fun. This is not good. Don't let the boss know.
Now we have to actually be good.
That was never a criteria. That's not in my contract.
No.
Showing up is in the contract. Being good, well, no. So now that Shane's here, Scott, when did you first meet Shane? Do you have a good Shane story that can be told on live TV?
I think the first time we met was actually at a convention up in just outside of Portland, Oregon, because I was living up there for a few years and I was working at Leica Studios at the time on Paranorman. I don't know if anybody saw that film.
Yep.
So I was up there and there was a convention called, I think it's GameStorm, Really nice game con, actually. And Shane was a guest there. And we just kind of started hanging out, and he knew that I was a Savage Worlds fan, and the rest is history. So that was I mean, it wasn't that exciting. I think there was a fair amount of beer involved, but
no, never.
My memory's a little hazy, so it's like. But that's I think that's the first time we crossed paths. Although actually, no, that's not true. I met him for the first time at a KublaCon. The Kickstorm worked him to death. I met Shane at a KublaCon when Deadlands second edition came out, Reloaded, when Reloaded was first released.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him there, and he signed a copy of my book. Still have it over here with the signature. And so that's where we met, but we didn't discuss work at the time. It wasn't until Game Store where we started actually talking about potentially writing stuff and things like that. But
that's an awesome story. And I think that's kind of the thing with all of us. I mean, all three of us are like, hip deep in Savage Worlds and Friendship with Shane, and they all kind of, various just started with like a random meet up at it. And I think the whole reason he came out to the Savages, Fox, like, did you send him an email once? Like, hey, come out to the convention. I've worked with the con owners to help you get you out here. And
I just fell in love with the system, and I, talking to the people who were running it at the time. And I said, we got to get Shane to come out to Colorado to, I think it was a Genghis Con at the time. And, and the friendship just grew from there.
Yeah, Shane's cool peeps. That's the problem with this game system,
question.
man, is like, he's just so cool that, what would we ever do without Shane? Nothing. So Scott, like, I mean, you are in Hollywood. Like, we got to get the brag out there. Yeah, that's what his mom says. Yes. Shane's mom's a wonderful person. Also all moms are wonderful people. And Shane's so cool. He literally like saved his dad's life this last month, like legit CPR, all that thing. Like, he's a superhero, crazy superhero dude. And but like so for Scott, back on that train, you can tell Tuesdays are hard for us. So we got the Monday meeting and then the Tuesday. We are worked already for Savage Worlds. But you are a creature of Hollywood. You are entrenched. Like, you just this last week, you came in third in the world for all writers for the sixth, which
Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker for Doctor Who. Yeah, Radio Times ran a poll to vote for the top slot for the number one out of 82 audio dramas that have been produced by this company called Big Finish Productions. Radio Times is a big entertainment magazine in the UK. I think it's the oldest one possibly in the world, for all I know. It started in the 20s. And lo and behold, an audio drama that I wrote for them back in 2004. Speaking of 2004, right. Came in third place, which is really weird because there's only like a handful of American writers who've ever written that stuff. And
that's amazing.
I just happened to place third, and I was pretty stoked. And it also coincided with the launch of our Game On Tabletop campaign. So last week was sort of like Scott week. It was pretty awesome around these parts.
So Scott, can people get that somewhere so they can hear it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I'm trying to think of the site right now, but just make sure it's bigfinish.com. It's as easy as that.
Okay.
And I think they might have my play on sale. It's called The Juggernauts, and it's a Dalek story. And it's right here, and it's $2.99. So speaking of low cost, it's a downloadable file, and you can check that out. I wrote a few other audios for them as well, including one with Paul McGann, the Eighth Doctor, and another Davros origin storyline, and then Dark Shadows. If anybody's familiar with Dark Shadows, the old vampire soap opera from the 60s and 70s. I wrote one of those as well with the original cast. So it was
nice.
A lot of fun. I love writing audio. It's one of my favorite mediums.
That's it, but it's crazy that people. I mean, the poll wasn't like a 12 people voted poll either. Like, it was a very well supported poll, and to have the love 15 years later from that. I mean, it's
crazy.
That's bonkers right there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So you do audio dramas. You obviously write Tell us a little bit about the scholarship, literally, that goes into bringing a property as big as Flash Gordon into a role-playing game. Like, I mean, you mentioned a little bit yesterday on Design Corner, but you really went all out as far as comprehensive sponging of what
Yeah.
Flash Gordon has been in its various forms. So give us a little preview, like what was, tell us about Flash, where did Flash start, that kind of thing, and what your process was like.
Well, I mean, for those of you who are not familiar with Flash Gordon at all, it goes back to a comic strip from the 1934, which I think it's January 7th. And that's off the top of my head. I might be spacing on that, but I think it was January 7th, 1934 is when it first premiered in newspaper strips in the U.S. It was just this exciting, science fantasy strip. Started out fairly crude in the newspapers, and then progressively got more and more exciting and beautifully drawn by Alex Raymond as the years went on. And it's still around. I mean, it's been in numerous iterations for decades. And so with the role playing game, we originally started thinking that our primary focus would be those original strips. I wasn't going to have it that way, because my feeling was it's been around in so many different forms, and there are so many different types of Flash Gordon fans out there, including the ones who just like the Sam J. Jones 1980 movie. I needed to incorporate it a little bit more. So, of course, I started out completely absorbing myself in those original comic strips and taking copious notes. I mean, pages and volumes of notes. And then I realized, well, yeah, but then there was also radio serials and film serials starring Buster Crabbe as Flash Gordon. And then a 1950s era German-U.S. co-production TV series. And then
which apparently wasn't so hot, right? The German one was a little...
Not so great. I mean, like I said, it has its fans, but it still was like, okay, well, I guess I have to investigate this. And then it was the novels from the 70s and the cartoon and the 1980 movie. And I just realized, after a while, I wound up spending weeks and weeks and weeks of just research. And I'm sure my wife was getting nauseated by hearing Flash Gordon serials pouring out of my computer all the time, and me watching them. And I bought all the DVDs I could, and I just got everything I could to completely immerse myself in the universe of Flash Gordon. So that, as I joked about it yesterday in Design Corner, but after writing this thing, I started in at the beginning as a fan of Flash Gordon. I have now become an expert of Flash Gordon, and there's absolutely no question. And actually, Verital, there are multiple. There's more than 3. There's several. Titan actually has done quite a few volumes, and they're fantastic. So yeah, definitely pick up those books if you want to check out the strips. They're gorgeous renditions of the original comic strips. But I don't know if they're doing any more. But Titan books, they produced some exquisite collections. This time I happen to have one of them down here. This is the very first one. You can see these. They're really nice, large, extraordinarily thick books, about an inch thick each volume, and I've got several on the shelf over there. So yeah, it was immersive, and the idea was that it would just become this sort of big amalgam that I wanted to be able to make it one cohesive thing, but pulling from so many different sources, and that's why any fan of Flash Gordon, I think, can flip through our original books, and actually Moons of Mongo now, and they'll see something in there that they're going to recognize. Quite an undertaking. I don't know if anybody else ever has really adapted something quite like that, but it was. I'm certainly proud of it.
So when you eventually end up on Jeopardy and you see Flash Gordon comes up as like you are clearing that one down.
I'm sweeping it.
Right,
no question.
As long as we're doing show and tell, we didn't get to it as much in Design Corner, and people have clamored for these. And we don't have Simon here to drop heavy production stuff on a table to make a thud noise. In the crowdfunder, the Game on Tabletop, it's a box set, Legends of Mongo, which is a lovely play on words for the stories legends and then the heroes and villains legends. But we have a veritable spaceship full of pawns. So you went ahead and did a Cheyenne Wright and made up actually pre-productions on your own. So do you want to show some of those off so you can actually see what the pawns are like? And actually, we'll put you full screen too, because
so I'm not sure how great this will show up on the webcam, but there's our Constrictosaurus. You see it's a two-sided
Oh,
beastie.
nice. I love it.
These are my own bases, and obviously the ones you get are going to be considerably thicker than these, but they're pretty sturdy. The art is phenomenal. Here's one of our red monkey men. I think this here, great looking stuff. Here's a nice image of our lion woman in this case. They're double-sided, fully rendered, full color, and of course I think my favorite of all time is again, you can't really see it too well, but it's one of Ming's scions there. You notice.
Yes.
So they are really, really awesome. They look beautiful. When I first saw the artwork, I was blown away, and I just had to start printing these out and making my own so I could play with them.
I'm going to be disappointed if we don't come up with an animated death scene for that little pawn, because if anybody's seen the 80s version, and that certain General Clytus has it involves like spikes and projectile eyeballs and a tongue.
Yeah.
A tongue that is hinged differently than other people's tongues. It is fantastic. And
the whole that's sort of a slight off side story, but the 1980 movie, we skirted around things a little bit there. We didn't really want to completely adapt stuff directly, and I think it was just sort of playing things safe. If I remember that was sort of the instruction I got from Shane. But we still have plenty in the game that fans of the film will recognize. I mean, not just the logo, which of course that was designed for the film originally, but in case of Clytus, I don't name check him, but he's there. And I also came up with this insane thing that like this idea that Clytus and Kala, both of whom are in black and gold, they both have the same symbol on their unusual uniforms, and they both disintegrate in the most graphic ways. So clearly there must be something unique about those two characters. And again, without actually saying their names, I came up with that they had to be psionic. There was no question. And that's why there was a sort of this breakdown when they died. They kind of liquefy or fall to pieces. And I just had such a blast doing that and still making it our own. I mean, it fits into this Flash Gordon universe, but there's no question that, it was delicately lifted out of
just a little twist on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, put a little twist on it and good to go.
Yeah, it was great.
So, I mean, the cool thing about these pawns, though, is that they have the fully rendered backside art. Like, it's not just a black, silhouette. It's not just the front.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not the front twice, because a lot of pawns, that's what you see is you get the front twice, or you get just, like you said, just a black shadow.
What's amazing, too, is that we have back art for characters that we presented in the original game that has just been rendered recently.
Oh, nice.
So they finally, what was I joking about it? It's like some of these characters finally got back. It's like we've never seen it before. We've seen beautiful shots of the front, but after all these years now, we finally have rear views, and they look terrific.
Yeah, right. And I mean, that makes a difference, right? I mean, that really adds a lot of value to the product. It's handy as a game master being able to figure out like where actual facing is, and they're
nice and portable too. That's one thing I love about these types of minis. I mean, obviously we also have them in the Deadlands boxes now, but they're beautiful. They're glossy. They're thick card. You can still pull them all apart and throw them in a bag, and off you go to your convention.
Yep,
it's great.
It actually makes me want to maybe use maps again.
Again?
Well, I'm not a map person. I'm a theater,
really?
I'm a theater of mind person. When I run games, I normally don't use maps.
Oh, I'm a toy on the table kind of
guy. Are you?
I need the minis and props and things that light up and flash, and no pun intended.
So tell us like You've covered amazingly like how there's a lot of iterations of Flash, right? And we are in 2021, and this is a product that is a century old, basically, right? And the better part of it, in design considerations, like what are the top things from Flash that exist over all of them? Especially like the cliffhanger. So I think the cliffhanger is kind of one of the big kind of elements that we lose there. But any of those that come to mind, like what are those in that medium, and then how did you bring them to the Savage Worlds game?
Well, certainly cliffhangers it had to be in there, and a lot of people will immediately think of old serials when they think of cliffhangers. But if you look at the original comic strips that the serials were based on, they all have cliffhangers as well. I mean, these were weekly strips, so you have to put your heroes in peril, and then tease that in the next episode, it's Flash versus the giant toad. So you got to be sticking around and make sure you're your mom
Right.
hands you your funnies the next week so you can continue the storyline. So cliffhangers have been in sort of the DNA of Flash Gordon from the outset. And so that absolutely had to find its way into the game, and I think it might have been one of the first things we thought we had to fit in there, and that's why we did a cliffhanger supplement. We did these really cool cards, and of course we did our epic cliffhanger token, the deluxe token, which is in our box set, which is a big chunky brass rocket ship token, and it gets flipped when a cliffhanger comes into play. So cliffhangers were absolutely had to be there, no question. The other thing too was this was sort of our playground for conviction. We really started to play around with conviction in Flash Gordon, which of course now is it's standard operating procedure. It's there. People are using conviction in a variety of Savage Worlds games, and that worked out really well. Planetary romance is also one of my very favorite things that we put into the game. It's interesting because I've talked about this before, but planetary romance is actually a name of a genre, but and most people know that. But in the context of Flash Gordon, it's just a beautiful way to communicate that it actually is romance. And what other role-playing game really starts out with a seed of potential romance with your characters?
Right.
In the original strips, and of course in any other iterations, obviously in the 1980 movie even, you have characters in Flash Gordon who throw themselves at each other. And it just happens sometimes. And it was a great way to sort of randomly choose a character, more or less, at the start of your session, who eventually an NPC was going to fall for. And it really adds kind of this fun anticipation of who might it be, when will it happen, and I just think it works beautifully. It's funny too, because I was saying throw themselves at your character. Another thing that's crazy about Flash Gordon comic strips, and I really haven't talked about this too much, if you go back to those old strips, Flash is routinely seen hurling people to their doom. It's just this thing. I don't know why Alex Raymond just must have absolutely loved Flash lifting people above his head and throwing them to their death. And of course, we didn't really necessarily go with death because we kind of skirted that. I mean, again, with cliffhangers, you always see people fall in those old serials to certain death, and then somehow they get out of it. And we kind of wanted to play on that a little bit in the role-playing game too. So we, of course, had our setting rule where heroes don't necessarily die, and even villains don't necessarily die. Think of the end of the 1980 Flash Gordon movie, where you see the hand reach down and pick up Ming's ring, and you hear the laugh, and then it kicks in with the Queen soundtrack. But so yeah, there's another one too that fit in really nicely. And we also had to figure out a way that heroes could hurl
right, throw people
to their doom, which also had to do with increasing, like, say for example, an Earthling has some benefits on Mongo due to gravity. They become gravitically enhanced, so that's another fun thing. So there was a lot of stuff we were able to pull from the setting, pull from the comics and the source material that just sort of clicked right into the Savage Worlds model.
Well, and we got a lot of questions on the yesterday's stream about what's different between Flash and Suede, and I think you touched on it tonight. But I mean, it's important to go back and recognize this, that the Flash is really one of the major properties that led to the changes between Explorers Editions and Suede. I mean, there's a lot of Suede already in Flash.
It really is, yeah. That was actually one of the most exciting things about writing it, is that every once in a while, Shane would come along and be like, oh, we're going to try something slightly different. And I know you wrote it as, Savage Worlds Deluxe, but we've got some really cool ideas we want to play around with. So yeah, it was a testing ground for a lot of stuff that eventually wound up in Suede. And for that reason, it's really easy to adapt to Suede. That's why our conversion document is 2.5 pages, something along those lines. There's not a lot of content, and some of it is even just very minor stuff like gear or stat blocks for monsters or things like that. So yeah, it's really easy to adapt. So we've had a lot of people ask us about that, and I always say Flash is probably one of the easiest of the sort of earlier pre-Suede RPGs to hit to your table and be playing with Suede. So.
Right, and like you've got the big ones, obviously. So Conviction, as you mentioned, that's a big one, and that takes the whole Benny economy and makes an even larger kind of frame for it, which is really fun. And plus like the big chunky token is pretty epic. So for those of you if you haven't gotten one of the big chunky tokens, there's only a handful of them left, and I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be reprinted or resmelted anytime soon. I mean the spaceship we had to melt down to create those. There's only so much scrap left. So but actually there is a tier, and let's go look on the Game On Tabletop and see what the current levels are. But the highest tier on the Game On Tabletop actually includes the original box set and that cliffhanger token. So I think there's like 35 of those available still. So those are like the last 35 cliffhanger tokens in the universe that have not been purchased. So if you go in for the champion of the wild planets, even though there's really only one wild planet, but hey, maybe we'll find another one. If you go in for that level for the $200, you just like all in, you get everything. That includes that previously Kickstarter exclusive. So now it's crowdfunder exclusive cliffhanger token. And it's not a coin. Like Donald, right. Donald hasn't. Even Donald, who's a developer on this and running the Game On Tabletop, has not even touched one. It's no coin. It is technically a lethal weapon. You could probably kill somebody with it. Oh, you could cliffhanger somebody with it.
Encourage that.
Yeah,
do not encourage violence. No real violence at the table. Just
it had a little bit of weight to it.
Right? Oh yeah, it's got some heft. It's a beast, and when you put that on the table, it lands with a thud.
Right, when you do your like Flash Gordon cosplay, that could be your belt buckle. It's it's.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Yeah. I want to see that. Somebody has to post a photo of that.
Good idea.
Now we're going to get photos.
There's some great comments too, like power modifiers. Yeah, we started doing those in Flash.
Right.
And then of course athletics. That was I think the first time we ever saw that, and said farewell to throwing. Quite a few things, and of course no, that's true. We still hung on to charisma in Flash, but that's easy to purge. So
right, yeah, you get some edges instead of the characteristic, but the I love it.
I love that. Yes, I love it.
Started was lost.
Started the edition wars.
You could see it was a throwdown.
No, don't go there.
Right. But the power modifiers. I mean. Let's be honest here. There would not be why did it just like the current
I can't help you here, man.
Fantasy Kickstarter we just did Pathfinder for Savage Worlds trademark registered. So wait, Flash Gordon has the trademark. Pathfinder has the R. Would not exist if it weren't for power modifiers. I mean, power modifiers are such a major component of how that fantasy world was adapted to the Savage Worlds rule set. That's huge. And obviously it wasn't as fleshed out in Flash because there wasn't the need for it, right? The list of 372 fantasy spells is not a Flash thing. But that little mechanic and getting it right in Flash allowed for the confidence to be able to say, oh, okay, we can do this. We can make these powers and still keep it, elegant and fast.
Right. We know it can work.
Yeah.
Skylar, that's a question for Shane. Shane, technically, there's really only Savage Worlds, right? Like we can call it editions, but it's really everything's very, I'd say, moderately iterative. So I think the answer is yes, in the sense that the Shane and crew play test constantly. Everything is play tested, and that's kind of the fun of seeing behind the curtain, like watching a development meeting where you've got like Shane and Clint and Simon, and then author of work. Maybe you have a story about this. I don't know. I wasn't there for the Flash creation, but hashing it out and arguing. I mean, friendly arguing, not like throwing things. Throwing dice is about the only argument, But arguing about like what is the mechanic that works? Does this work for these situations? Does it break something else in the game? Does it keep the tone? It is fantastic to watch. Because I think as like when Fox and I and Brett worked together, a lot of it was, oh, that sounds like a cool mechanic. Let's just try it out. And we'll play this a little bit. But the amount of sometimes they do throw things. The advantage of working remotely, now you can only break your webcam. But just seeing that process, and something might sound genius, right? Yeah. Shane says sometimes we throw things virtually, and Amerigo says, no, you athletic things.
I'm going to athletic this.
Right? Okay, that's now a thing. Here's a throwback. So we know that Scott Woodard has a D12 plus 2 at least in writing, because he correctly used the verb instead of getting sick. So you said your wife she became ill. You correctly, so instead of saying she was nauseous, you use nauseated. And that is a D12 plus 2 correct use of the term nauseated versus nauseous. So that's why you have. So if we had to stat you up on a character sheet, the correct use of the word nauseated gets you your SAT D12 plus 2 in writing.
Okay, I'll take it.
Take it. But yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh yes, he is a man of sophistication and taste when it comes to vocabulary, because that's that's really
all
easy.
I do is write. That's the thing. I have no other purpose. I write everything. I write for my day job. I write game stuff. I write. Actually, one thing we wanted to mention. So we've shown the amazing pawns, and then we briefly mentioned that you got an amazing write-up during the Flash. There's so much Flash history. I think Shane's in the audience now. I think what we might want to do is like this next week kind of pimp out some of the stuff that we've already done. Like you did a whole actual play with the saving throw folks for the Flash last time. Yeah. We should definitely either try to rerun that, because we'll call those folks and say, hey, can we rerun your actual play? There's another actual play, a live one we're doing tomorrow night. But you got an amazingly gorgeous write-up on a magazine. And let me share screen and see if I can make this work correctly without the here we go. So yeah, tell us about getting it written up, because this is they went with the art. I mean, like the Flash art is so
amazing.
Good. This is a real print magazine, and they gave you a 4-page spread with.
This is the physical copy I'm holding up in my corner down here. But yeah, this was great. I mean, I think actually Tabletop Gaming reached out to me, which was kind of shocking and cool. And we did a really, really nice interview. They had a whole series of questions. If I remember, it was pretty comprehensive. Several pages of questions that they then pulled from. But I was really happy with this. I think it came out really nicely. And we got a lot of direct feedback from readers who saw it and loved it. And of course, I shared it all over the place. Social media was dominated by images from this article rather. And it came at a really good time. I mean, how often do we get that kind of coverage? In this case, I think it's a British magazine. I know it's on newsstands now in the U.S., but at the time, I think it was exclusively British. So it was pretty awesome.
All right, and I think it's a testament, obviously, to the work you did, but also, I mean, they use illustrations from Bien Flores, Chris Bivens, and Aaron Riley, and I couldn't tell you which is which, because I mean, I think that's kind of the amazing thing about Sigil is they've really captured a style for Pinnacle. Yeah. Right, and maybe you talked about it recently in some other shows about how even art that wasn't originally in a painterly style, bringing it to the kind of painterly style that the Pinnacles used, and how cohesive and consistent it is between all of the art pieces. But I do love the very pensive hand on chin. And they got a pull quote from you. The pull quote is, the innocence and lack of logic in the original comic strips gave me a lot of leeway in designing things. So you want to talk a little bit more about that, about just kind of the about how you brought Flash to Savage Worlds, and what the we definitely talked about cliffhangers. But maybe game master tips, because we're going in. Cheyenne needs no tips from anybody. He's an amazing game master. But if you did have any tips on how to keep it fast, furious, and fun, but bring in the spirit of Flash, what is it? What is that access to freedom that you get from Flash?
Say yes to your players a lot when they come up with the most outrageous ideas, especially in something like Flash. I mean, I've run games where people have literally wanted to jump from one rocket ship to another in mid-flight. Of course you can do that. That's not a problem. And if any game can handle it, it's Savage Worlds. And that is the kind of stuff that you would see in the original strips. You'll look in the original comic strips, and the most incredible stuff is happening. They're jumping from outrageous heights and landing on their feet. They're flying through the air. They're taking on huge monsters single-handedly and winning. All this kind of stuff is totally doable and totally works within the confines of Savage Worlds. And so, yes, when you look at that kind of stuff, you don't have to worry about whether or not gravity will play on that person when they literally jump that chasm. Oh, they can jump that chasm. There's no question. So yeah, that's why I say the innocence. It was sort of a naivete about the original strips. And I think that was one of the things that probably Alex Raymond really enjoyed doing was when they were producing the strip, and they could just let Flash and Dale and Zarkov, take our 3 human characters, our Earthlings, and throw them into these environments where pretty much anything is possible. So yeah, let when your players say, "Can I do?" often stop right there and just say, "Of course you can." So that's one of the things I always encourage with
we'll figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the fun thing about cliffhangers too, right? Because I mean, if something breaks your game and does not work, or you end up in a situation that you can just boom, end of the session, cliffhanger, and when you come back next time, we just don't talk about that anymore. It didn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
That level of freedom is fun too. And I think that's like the nice thing about Flash, right? It's one of the issues now with any kind of property as we kind of re-examine things in the modern cultural milieu of craziness is sensibilities in 2020 are not the same as they were in 1930 or 1940, right? But I think Flash,
they're not.
Right? But I think Flash survives because that level of camp and the level of not taking things seriously allows you to ditch things that really are no longer as interesting or flavorful or maybe never were. Like, right. There's no, this isn't, I don't know that anybody would look at Flash and take it as seriously as some fans take like Star Wars, where,
right.
they're so serious that you have to like, you have to have the company literally say, this is canon, this is not canon, this is no longer canon, because there's literally flame wars over that stuff. And people, even without having, bad faith arguments over non-controversial stuff, people get in wars. But, Flash, like, you got a kind of dim-witted, blonde, hunky dude who's a football jock, right, as the main guy. But he's not the only real star, right? I mean, the star of Flash is this rich, immersive world that has been built up over time, the kind of fun different cultures you can play with, and since there have been so many different adaptations and authors behind those, right, even in the comics, right, there's no necessarily like there's no Bible, right? There's no, I mean, the music of the Bible is like wrong because there's 20 different sects of any given Sunday. You have different books, but there's no perfect one holy scripture put down as perfect, and you have to play it this way. You can have female heroines. You can change the kind of what cultures the different races are kind of pulling from. The nice thing is also it's not Earth, right? I mean, Flash is from Earth, and save when he might return to Earth. It actually is an alien planet, so the rules are kind of off, right?
All over the place. All over the place.
Take the training wheels off. You can do what you want.
And even for the win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even in the original strips, you'll see a lot of you can't even use the term error. You'll see continuity inconsistency. So stuff will happen, and you'll realize, well, but before it would have been, and you kind of just have to stop and just keep running with it, because the comics and any of the storytelling from any of the various iterations of publishers, audio, film, whatever, have all taken the seed of Flash Gordon and done their own thing. Which is kind of one of the reasons why we didn't really touch on a lot of the more recent comic versions of Flash Gordon, because almost every comic publisher who has gotten the rights to do Flash has done their own thing. Some completely contradicting what happened in the origin story. But you know what? It's still Flash Gordon. The only exception would be the 1980s novels, but that's a whole nother story. I'm not even going to go there. Yes, I've read them. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, I am Skyline writes that Flash plays lacrosse for the Jets. And wasn't he the only actual Jets quarterback you actually ever had to care about in history? I mean, I think that's still true that Flash is really the only one that's ever accomplished much. Sorry, Jets fans.
You'll also notice, I mean, talking about playing with the storyline and Flash going off in different directions. If you look through the core rule book, you'll see stuff that I've pulled piece by piece from other sources, but put into one section. So, for example, Flash in the core rule book played lacrosse polo. I think it's lacrosse. No, he played polo because he originally played polo in the 1930s comic. But I also mentioned he played football too. He had to. I mean, of course, people are going to be thinking, "Oh, the 1980 movie, he plays football. What's this polo thing? Nobody plays polo." So, but yeah, no, he plays both. He's that awesome.
I'm a tall dude. I'm like 6'2", and it wasn't really until college that the guys at my university who played water polo were like 6'10" and above. And I'm just like, I didn't know they made human beings that tall. It was very weird looking up at people. And I'm like, oh, so that's what it feels like to be short. It's terrifying. You're not used to it when you have height privilege. You don't appreciate that. So Flash is the guy. Flash is the guy on the bus that, he's the first guy off the bus, whether it's the lacrosse bus or the polo bus or the football bus that, do you intimidate the other team?
That comment about all canon is true. I kind of agree, and especially for something like Flash Gordon, it's just been around in so many different forms that it's almost impossible to just select one. If we had done that, I don't think it would have worked at all. But it's really fun being able to sort of pull all that stuff together into one cohesive whole, as I said earlier. But yeah, no, it's great, and we'll continue.
That was a great comment from George Orr.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you can actually. I've run plenty of games that have started with a cliffhanger, even if it was the first session. It's a lot of fun to just say, okay, now your ship is on fire, and there are a limited number of parachutes, and you just go and figure out what's going to happen here. Thankfully you'll have one Hawkman in there who'll just say, I got this. But he can grab one. He can take at least one down. Maybe he take another one down, risk a little weight issue. But, just start like that. I mean, I think you'll immediately convey what Flash Gordon is all about by doing something like that.
I think that's especially great for convention games and for one shots.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a long campaign, great. Spend session 0, multiple session zeros talking about your interrelated characters and all that kind of stuff. You can do that to kind of set some groundwork. But when you only have a couple hours to get to the point and get people to have some entertainment, Savage Worlds is a great system. And then that if you want to use that mechanic of like, we're starting at episode 7, people. Episode 7 of Flash. Like, what about episode 1 through 6? Who knows?
It would be perfect too for a con game to basically, write your con game so that you have that cliffhanger right in the middle of the game. So you've got the first hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you have a cliffhanger. Everybody can take a quick break. You come back and then you pick up with that cliffhanger for the convention game.
Oh yeah,
and this is an easy way, and Flash is the perfect setting to do that in.
Yeah, I mean, we struggled. Is it going to be called a cliffhanger, or is it going to be called bio break? But we went with cliffhanger.
Right. So I wanted to throw Skylion's question from when we first started, because I found it kind of interesting. He just says, I've often told people that they can use Flash Gordon as the skeleton for nearly any kind of planetary romance, including the genre antecedents of He-Man and Thundar. Does the new material adhere to that? What would do that?
Yeah, sure. It's actually with Moons of Mongo, if that's what we're referring to. Moons of Mongo is, in a weird way, an evolution of the Flash Gordon universe, paralleling what we saw in the comics. And what I mean by that is there's still sort of again, going back to that naive 30s, 40s sensibility about some of the stuff that's in the original core game, although it's adaptable to everything, any period. But in the comic strips, we started to get off of Mongo. That happened sort of after Alex Raymond left, a new writer came in, and we started to explore space. And that's where Moons of Mongo comes together. It was an absolute evolution of the Flash Gordon idea. And by that token, you're now setting foot on completely alien worlds, which opens up a lot of exploration possibilities for your players and your game masters. And I'm hoping that we'll have game masters who will say, well, the stuff we did on Lunita was a lot of fun, but it's just one small dot on the map of an entire unexplored moon. So have at it, go for it. If you want to put Eternia on there on the other side of the moon, I mean, it might very well be there for all I know, but that's entirely up to you. So yeah, I totally feel like it just fits right in with that planetary romance idea. Very proud of it too. I'm writing Moons of Mongo. I got to say was one of the first proposed projects I tossed out there way back when we were first starting to write the game.
Yeah, you were showing some of those documents, the internal documents you were last night on the design corner. If you haven't seen the design corner, it's already up on YouTube, but it's also on Twitch on demand. You can check out that episode yesterday. That was a great episode talking about design choices. So give us a little hint. I mean, obviously we don't want to spoil too much. I mean, tomorrow we're going to have an actual play, which is going to include some of the content from Moons of Mongo. So that's going to be, I think, the second one, the demagnetized, I think is where Cheyenne's going to go with that one.
Right.
So let's talk about the other adventure. A little hint on like what in the other moon, what are we looking at here? What can game masters and players expect?
So in both cases for Exila or Exila, I think it's more Exila, but I keep saying Exila when I was working on it, but it's an exiled mode. You get exiled to Exila. That one I wanted to write a noir type of story. So it's very investigation heavy, and that's not something we really did with any of the other stuff from Flash. I kind of wanted to turn the genre on its ear a little bit. So that's what you're going to get when you go into up onto Exila, the Outlaw Moon, as it's also known. Whereas Lunita is that is, and I joked about this last night. It's kind of opens up almost like a hex crawl kind of a feel. So it has points that your characters are going to go through, but there's a lot of possibilities beyond those borders. So I think I've presented two completely different styles of adventure that sort of stack right on top of all the stuff that we've presented in Flash already.
So, and that's really fantastic. And I think I mean, you kind of wonder if there's anybody else who could have written this game, right? Because obviously, like you got a BA, an MS, and then like a PhD in Flash studies while doing this. And then, but also
wrote a dissertation on Flash.
I mean, legit, and it got published and got paid for it. So, like, how many of you doctors got paid for your dissertation? Like, are you using your education, people? But but even more than that, I mean, you're kind of the perfect dude. I mean, I jokingly gave you the sobriquet, Scott Hollywood Woodard. But I mean, your mastery of kind of genres and the storytelling, I mean, that's hard earned. Like, it's not just, you're not just a fanboy. I mean, you've been in the industry, written for these various things. And the fact that Flash can be multiple kind of, it doesn't have to be just, I mean, the fact that like you've got a noir story, right? I mean, that is something that is, the detective kind of thing. That's a very different than the demagnetized story, and it's different than what was already in the previous adventures. And getting that right, I think, is difficult, and I think you've done an amazing job of that. But I think if you have a copy of your book, you literally wrote the book on Hollywood film and fantasy, right? I mean, So yeah,
I have it right here.
Hold that bad boy up.
This beast, which is it's 250,000 plus words. That was quite the project, and I won't go into too much detail because we're talking Savage Worlds and Flash Gordon. But you're right. I mean, this shows my appreciation and love for cinema and sort of schlocky fantasy films. In this case, we covered a lot of really bad schlocky movies in that book, and but it's perfectly compatible with sort of that sort of Flash Gordon cinema.
Okay, I have to ask: is Hawk the Slayer in the book?
Of course it is. I wrote the chapter on it.
I had no doubt.
We did 50 full chapters of wide variety of movies, plus a comprehensive index of something like 400 other sword and sorcery films. So yeah, that's another thing now I'm an expert on, is this kind of stuff. We joked about possibly doing a post-apocalyptic film book after that, but I never want to write another project like this ever.
Once was enough, huh?
Once was there. I was one and done. I had a great time with it, but
I can see. This wasn't really about the book. It was an excuse to just watch a bunch of B movies, and then afterward, you're like, "This is not nearly as much fun when it's work." Oh my god!
But the nice thing is that book was nominated for an Emmy. We didn't win, but it was nominated. And our Flash Gordon box set was nominated for an Origins Award. So I must be doing something right.
Right, exactly.
The Skyline asks, is there any Keith in the book?
Yes, there is. I did write the chapter on Ator, the Fighting Eagle.
Nice. Oh, that's right. Okay,
yes.
Yeah. No, so good. Well, and I mean, she's not here on screen, but we got to get into bragging for the missus. So tell us what your wife does, and the most famous character that's most beloved plush toy out in the market today. She's the one who brings it to life, right? So
yeah, pretty much. No, her latest claim to fame is she's worked on Mandalorian season 1 and 2, and just wrapped up the book of Boba Fett. And she works as a creature fabricator and puppeteer. So if you watched episode 8 of the behind the scenes Disney gallery from season 2, you'll see her interviewed talking about puppeteering and building Grogu. Yeah, so that's her baby. So
mine is sitting right over there.
Oh,
my Funko Pop.
So she's literally like Stan Winston's protege, right? I mean, like that. She's with that company for decades, right? Like
decades, yeah.
That is.
If you look at her IMDb profile, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, a lot of huge Marvel films, and I mean, just it's arm's length of some of the biggest blockbusters in Hollywood, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, she's worked on a lot of great stuff. She's kind of awesome,
right? Kind of awesome, just a little bit. Yeah, we haven't met yet, but it's like I think you scored the lottery with that pick. So congratulations, sir. But man, that's the thing though is there's some really trite, like write what you know, right? Okay, well, what if you're an indoor nerd who doesn't know shit about anything? But Hollywood, sir. I mean, you literally live it. You're part of the community, and right. I mean, I think that really just shows in the quality of how. Like I don't think. I mean, it's good that you're writing for Savage Worlds because one, I don't think another system off the top of my head, I really can't think of one that's obvious could really handle the kind of diversity that Flash has narratively and mechanically,
cinematically,
literally cinematic.
Is, really,
right?
Savage Worlds is probably the most, in my opinion, the most cinematic role playing game.
Yeah,
and so my love of films, it's really easy to adapt this stuff to Savage Worlds. I can't think of I don't think I could have really written Flash Gordon for any other system where it would have been as fun as it is. Let's put it that way.
right, and just the tropes that are fun things to play with. Tropes is not always a bad word, people. Like let's let go of that. Just because there's a trope that you recognize doesn't mean you have to axe it out of your games. Tropes are fun. They're
tropes are great.
They're storytelling shorthand, and then flipping them is also fun too. But there's no reason you have to treat them as sacrosanct. But the super exciting. The Kickstarter, the crowdfunder. So, like for you guys who aren't currently backing it, I think it funded day one, like everything Pinnacle does. It's already over like $11,000, 567% of the funding goal. And
how much longer is it out there for?
I think just over a week. So I think next Wednesday. Well, next Wednesday or Thursday.
So get out there quick. Yeah, get out there quick if you want to get it now.
But I mean, and it's chock full of stuff, right? So we've got all of the pawns, the archetype cards. There's a whole ton of those. And as well as like adversary cards, which is kind of a new fun thing too. The current art on those is actually great. They pulled art from the original Flash series, and I know it's not final, but it's really kind of cool seeing the original comic book style art. And the pawns, the conversion guide, the
combat guide, right? That's in there too, right?
And and if of course 2 whole full. They're not just one shots though. Like the two Moon adventures are multi-part adventures, and that's why we're only covering a little bit of it in the AP stream tomorrow.
Right.
And so you've got Exila or Exila. I mean, the person who wrote Exila, they did not have a D12+2 in writing. It's a little on the nose, little punish. I mean, that's my I like puns, but Lunita and Exila. So you kind of have it all here. You've got content to run because everybody loves just having content, right? Like pull it out of the box, you can sit down and run it.
Right.
The update from Suede to Suede is very simple. Like just Axe Charisma, you're good to go. The archetype cards and all that already take care of all the other conversion you need to do. And part of the conversion document, just like it's on the cards, guys. Yep. And the anything else that's fun?
On top of the adventures, we also there's some new monsters in there. There's some new vehicles. There's some new gear. We squeeze all sorts of goodies into this box.
And that is kind of fun about the Space Pulp, right? Because it is about it's just like cliffhangers, over the top cinematics, the crazy alien monsters you can fight, and there's more of those. The pawns are fun. Oh, and of course, because the Pinnacle has gone full bore into the VTT, all these assets will eventually make themselves onto the VTT platforms. And but the do-it-yourself VTT is great because even if you're not using a VTT, pulling the art for the characters and for the adversaries, you just plop them into little documents or show them to your players. And the fact that it's like almost 150 pawns, over 140 pawns. That's a lot of pawns, guys. I think only the Deadlands pawns, because we've done so many sets, kind of eclipse that. But 140 pawns in a box set for all of your. Are we going with Space Opera? Is it literally Space Opera? Is it Space Pulp? Scott is the guy who knows this. What is the best? Oh, maps. Yes, there are new maps too. I think there is in the adventures, not pull-out maps, but the smaller maps for the adventures. That when you're moving around the cities, whether you're in Exila or in Lunita, there's so no big pull-out maps, but I think the smaller maps are in the adventures.
Yeah, and the maps look great. They did a really, really nice job.
Of course
it's sci-fi ultimately. It's pulp science fiction. It's probably the easiest way to explain it.
And really that is a hot genre. And who doesn't love all those pawns? Actually show us this one more time. Hold them up again because they're hot and we love them. And there's Shane.
Here's our priest of Teo, as it was pronounced in the serial. Mm-hmm. This one I like a lot. This is a gas spider. These guys are great. Mm-hmm. The artwork is so good on these guys. And again, here's our big chunky Constrictosaurus. Mm-hmm. Two-sided, beautiful. I love these guys. Yeah, I couldn't help it. I had to print a bunch out. I have them all laying out in front of my computer here, so it's like my action figures.
Just thinking about Scott, Savage Mommy mentioned it before, but we are about to go and play in person again. People are getting vaccinated. We're about to get back on this, and the Savage Cruise is coming up, and for the Savage, when I ran my games on Savage Cruise, I brought along the flat plastic miniatures, and Pinnacle has licensed the Deadlands ones and the Last Parsec ones, and then they've got a whole line of other little and those are great because literally you can take a stack of 50 of them and put a rubber band around them, and it's 2 inches thick, and then you just bring your bases. Same with the pawns. The pawns are so Simon has shown off in the meetings, the staff meetings. It's really they're die cut, so they have that really awesome rounded beveled edge, and it also kind of seals it a little bit, so they're really kind of durable. They're nice thick cardboard, ragboard, tagboard. There's actually a term of art for what level of cardboard it is. It's not the cheap stuff, folks. It's actually the good stuff. And I'm sure Shane will get on here in a second and chastise me for not memorizing this. But they're really, they're very transportable, and they're easy to store, right? And then also because it's a box set, it looks really sexy on your shelf. Let's just be honest, we all love the box sets because they just look really good. Yeah. So next to the previous box sets, if you haven't gotten them yet, there are 30 left of the original box set with the chonking cliffhanger token. You can grab that. You can throw it on your table. Don't throw it at your players. And if you get a Carolina game table, it's got a nice soft felt. It will probably not damage it. But if it does, you can replace the bottom. We're getting all the pitches in today. How can you not love Flash, right? It touches on history. It's Hollywood history. It's so campy. It's really fun. It gives so many different accesses of freedom for players and game masters to play around with, because it doesn't take itself too seriously. But there's still that I think Ming he's just by getting like the Max von Sydow kind of side of it, where he's just very English accent, but he's got the eyebrow game. You kind of you hit on some Hollywood tropes and some original characterizations, but those are so far removed now that he's just like a quintessential pulp bad guy, right? Like, kind of brilliant, but also kind of stupid, right? So there's that little bit of room where you can, when you foil his, dastardly plans.
As they say, smart for his own good.
Right, exactly. Right. Too smart for his own good is a perfect way to put it. And, those are just fun to play with. And that's what role-playing is about, right? It is about having fun with your friends, getting around the table, having some laughs. And so the fact that you can take this from everywhere from like tongue-in-cheek beer and pretzels play all the way into kind of serious campaign play, because there's so much material out for it now. You can put together a serious Flash Gordon campaign, even just using the material published, even without the adventure generator and all that good stuff that was in the original. Just running the adventures as written. You can pick either way for it. So I'm excited that Pinnacle is still supporting this. And that's kind of the nice thing about this box set is it's not just for the new material. You get the Moons of Mongo 2 adventure set, but all those pawns are for all of the Flash Gordon material that's already come out. So it works on that level as well. So let's see. Parting thoughts, Scott. Is there anything you're working on game wise or other that you can tell us about?
How I wish. I am working on some gaming stuff, but unfortunately I can't share. I can't even tease, not at this point. But some pretty exciting stuff coming down the pike. We'll see. Hopefully in the next few months we can start talking about it. I can't spill.
Usually I'm really good at it, but see, Scott has got like the D12 resistance to Landauer's being stupid questions. So and
NDAs are my life. So especially with my living with my wife, it's like, she, first of all, she doesn't tell me anything, but what she does, I can't say.
Is that her desk back there? It's like, can I see that post? If we zoom in really hard, is there something on that Post-it note that will tell me about what's coming up on The Mandalorian?
You can kind of see a couple Star Wars logos back there, I think. But and then there's some crew photos up on the wall back behind me from previous productions she's on. There was a picture of a signed photo of Sean Connery back there too.
Oh, nice.
And she worked on the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yeah,
nice. Yeah. I mean, I don't get why that one tanked. Especially, it wasn't the special effects. That movie was gorgeous. The effects were amazing. Maybe it was just because Sean finally phoned it in as his last film. But I am skylighted. Yeah, Pedro Pascal will be replaced by John Cleese.
How did you know this?
I'd still watch that. I would still legit watch that. Like the Mandalorian of funny walks, I could totally get behind that. The
Montalorian.
Right. So I'm one of the conspiracy theorists on the Mandalorian that thought that Pedro Pascal was not actually the actor who was going to be revealed. I thought it was Timothy Olyphant, because if you listen to Pedro Pascal's accent in the Mandalorian, it's very, very similar to Timothy Olyphant. And the fact that they brought Timothy on, I was like, I am vindicated. Someone else clearly thought the same thing, that Timothy Olyphant could be this Mandalorian character, and so they gave him the cameo.
I really liked his character.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Cobb Vanth. Yeah.
It was very cool.
Well, and really, we almost have your wife to thank for saving the entire Star Wars franchise, because, the producer, the writer, was it Filoni? Is that
Dave Filoni? Yeah.
Yeah, he just got majorly promoted to be So thank your wife for that, because she by making Grogu so cute and lifelike, she single-handedly saved Star Wars from itself.
Frog Lady was also one of her babies from last season.
Oh, nice.
That was such a cool, right? Okay, here's the best part about storytelling. Everybody loves Grogu. How do you make the cutest thing on the planet the subtle villain when it's eating the frog, right? And you're like, don't do it, Grogu! Don't do it! It's the last of her species. Don't! Oh, why do I have to not love you?
You used to be so cute, and now you're in the terrible twos.
That's what everyone used to say about me too. They're like, "Oh, Landauer, you were so cute as a kid. What happened?"
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That's another story for another time.
It is. So yeah. Thanks for joining us, Scott. You were amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much, Scott.
We're so lucky to have you at Pinnacle doing Flash Gordon. It's really a centerpiece of kind of showcasing how what Savage Worlds really can do. So that the fact that it was so inspirational for Suede, so many of the things that we kind of take for granted now that we enjoy kind of came out with between your collaboration with Shane et al. And thanks for man. Like this new again one more time. I'll put the link in for those who are watching and who still have made the poor choice not to back yet. Do get over to the Game On Tabletop. Pick it up. There's a digital only tier if you just want to check out the PDFs. But if you do back at the physical levels, remember you can always get the PDFs from Pinnacle. There's a scant few in the world left, and we demand you cut the cellophane and take them out of the box and use them, not keeping them new in box on shelf. The cliffhanger token enabled original Flash Gordon box set with the Champion of the Wild Planet. Because I think, was that before the pre-show, or did we actually talk about that on the show about being a collector and taking stuff out of the box?
That might have been a pre-show thing.
I think so before we went.
Great. So now everyone's like, what are you talking about, Landauer? No, so pre-show, real quick. We talked about how, like, we're in the game of playing, right? Get those books off the shelf, use them, play them, beat them up, give them to a friend when they're, and buy a new one. Not the collector world where you just take things, leave them in the shrink wrap and leave them on the shelf. And so we were talking about play with your toys, people. Playing with toys. No one on their deathbed is going to be like, I got a really good deal on eBay for that toy I never played with and kept for 40 years.
That's right.
No one's going to say that, but they will say, I enjoyed the time I had with my friends actually, playing with the stuff. So grab the pawns, play with them.
I agree with George. He said unboxing is one of the best parts of this hobby. I completely agree. I try to open stuff as quickly as possible when I get it.
It smells so good.
Oh yeah.
Right? And Scott was talking about there's some great apparently YouTube channel where they go and find vintage toys that are new in box or shrink wrapped that are worth a lot of money because of that state, and then they open them and play with them. So follow Scott. That. Scott's on Twitter at SA Woodard at Twitter. Yeah. Follow him. We will make sure that he tweets about that channel, and then also all the wonderful things his wife is doing and that he is doing. And then big congratulations on the big victory, number 3 out of 68 or more on the Doctor Who writers. You're amazing, dude. We appreciate everything about you. Shane says right on.
And Chris, can you give the time one more time real quick for the actual play?
Oh, yeah. So it is tomorrow. It is live. Let me actually pull up the calendar because I do not want to screw this up because we have time zone issues because Shane et al. Are in Arizona, and Arizona doesn't observe daylight savings time, which is a brilliant thing not to do. But half the year they're in California time and half the year they're in Mountain Time. So we don't know this episode. So tomorrow the actual play is, I think it's 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and then 8 p.m. Eastern when it starts.
What is it, GMT?
Oh, my God. Yes. Midnight-ish. 7 hours in. So we're going to do a live actual play. Cheyenne Wright is going to be on there and a wonderful team from Pinnacle. And then Scott's going to kick it off with us and get it going. But
I'll be hanging in chat.
Right, and he will answer questions in chat if you don't have them. So guys, get on the crowdfunder so you will have more stuff to sell in boxes. And then Shane's like, we should just sell boxes. There's totally a market there. We should just put heavyweights in boxes and shrink wrap them, and then Simon can drop them.
There's a few games that I have just bought boxes to put the game in out of other boxes.
Yeah. Well, there's totally a board game, one of the Investory Mystery ones that I bought at Gen Con, where I opened it up and it was like, here's a key for your app, and then here's a little bit, and it was like a big box, and I opened up, it was like, okay, they gave me a fortune cookie sized piece of paper that allows me to download it to my phone, and then a little tiny quarter deck of cards. I'm like, this is brilliant marketing. I bought a box for an app.
I bought an empty box to put my Cards Against Humanity cards in. Mm-hmm. I also bought the box for Smash Up, the DC deck building game. So, they have so many expansions that you then have to buy an empty box to put all the stuff in from the other boxes. So, you could sell boxes. People
Savage, Flash Gordon, Smash Up. We're going to make it happen. Yeah. Not a promise, but so guys.
That would be epic.
Appreciate you watching us. We have hit our almost hour and a half, so it's time for us old men to go to bed.
Thanks for spending an evening with us.
We appreciate you guys. And then remember, so tomorrow, Flash Gordon AP. And then if you haven't already seen, there's a Reddit AMA that's going to be on Friday. So bring your questions to that, and Scott will get on that as well. Yep. And, and the other nice thing, one more thing about all the box sets, because we do have a comment about the Lankbar box set, which is actually fantastic. So if you go in on the crowdfunders, you can do add-ons for the other box sets that you might have missed if you want to take advantage of Pinnacle's very generous shipping policy of kind of getting them all in one. So if you missed out on the previous box sets, get in on the Flash Gordon Legends of Mongo box set, the original Flash Gordon box set, and then any other box sets, because there are a bunch of them now. And people will come and look at your bookshelves and be impressed at your culture and taste in role-playing games.
They will go ooh and ah.
And then wing wang, walla walla, bing bang.
That's right.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate you. Take it easy. See you in 2 weeks on Tuesday, and then tomorrow on the stream. So
have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Disclaimer, this game podcast references the Savage Worlds game system available from Pinnacle Entertainment Group at www.peginc.com. It is unofficial media content permitted under the Media Network Content Agreement. This content is not managed, approved, or endorsed by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Certain portions of this materials used are the intellectual property of Pinnacle. All rights are reserved. Savage Worlds, all related settings, and unique characters, including Flash Gordon. Locations, logos, and trademarks are copyrights of Pinnacle Entertainment Group.